Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Today we celebrate Remembrance Day. It is just putting a poppy on your collar is sufficient homage to the people who sacrificed their lives so that the majority of the people could live in peace. The Remembrance Day is essentially based to be a day of introspection. And poppies as a symbol, I appreciate, I welcome, and I always advocate people to wear them because the outward symbols show the state of mind. But do we celebrate the sacrifice, the bravery, or do we lament the stupidity of the leaders and the greed of mankind that necessitated the war? Essentially, Remembrance Day is a celebration of the sacrifice of the brave soldiers in the Second World War. And when I look at it, I find that the sacrifice of the people, of the soldiers, is great. They laid down their lives in those conditions which normally the people would run away from. They sacrificed so that we could be free and fascism and Nazism could not rule us. But were the sacrifices not in vain? Did they really result in what was hoped for? Is there not a different direction the world has taken? Is still there corruption and the Nazism and fascism not there, but in different shapes? I marvel. When Don Cherry the other day condemned the immigrants for not wearing poppies because they don't understand and realize the sacrifice that the vets did, he was honestly not being very truthful. Is he aware that 2.5 million South Asian, Pakistani and Indian soldiers participated in the Second World War? 2.5 million. And out of that, 900,000 people were killed. The number of the Victoria Crosses won far outnumbered the Victoria Crosses won by any other group of army officers. Not that I'm belittling Canadian soldiers. Their fight at the Vimy Ridge, for example, was exemplary. I would say that the Vimy Ridge fight was as full of bravery as was that of Saragari. These are the few wars we show the ultimate capacity of the men to fight. But then come to the original question. Shouldn't Remembrance Day be a day of introspection for the leaders? Have the leaders got over that greed of holding other countries slaves? Do we still not see the wars and the bloodshed and try to impose our ideas on those countries? If we do so, then isn't this celebration of Remembrance Day a hoax, a fraud, a hypocrisy, just a mask to cover the real intent? I think so. Don't you agree? Then come to the second part. The same political leaders who are proudly wearing the poppies on their chests today, when they were approached by the vets, they said, we don't have money to give it to you. We don't have money to give you the artificial limb. But we have money, millions of dollars, to give to the terrorists who have injured you. The same veterans who fought in the Second World War, the same veterans who fought in the Afghanistan War, the same veterans who fought in the Iraq War, they're the same. They were carrying out the orders of the civilian government to go and fight, ostensibly to protect the principles and the values that we uphold and we cherish. And they lost their lives, lost their limb, became incapacitated. And we don't give them help. We need to help them while thinking of the dead, praying for the peace of their souls is important, while remembering their deeds of bravery is important. But isn't it also important to help the living example of those brave soldiers who sacrificed their lives and limbs, and today they have been cast aside as garbage? We talk of the vets. What do we do for them? Practically nothing, zilch, zero. And then comes 11th of November, and all the political leaders are holier than thou as far as professing of loyalty and sincerity to the vets is concerned. It's important to do a deed than to talk about it. Let the political leaders set an example, and that would be the real celebration. Let it be a celebration of bravery of those people. Agreed. Let it be a celebration of the fight against the forces of darkness. Absolutely correct. But let it also be a day of introspection. Whether those forces which prompted the first war and the second war, are they dead and gone? Have they been buried fathoms deep? If not so, then Remembrance Day loses all its sanctity. And people like Don Cherry, they don't know the history, they don't know the reality. And with their half-baked knowledge, they make comments which are hurting, tasteless, and smack of ignorance, if not stupidity. They're despicable, hateful, absolutely. But I would not talk of that. I would talk of the real thing. When I was a child, and I was studying in standard 7th, I read a poem, The Battle of Blenheim, where a young child and his grandfather go to the battlefield of Blenheim. And the grandfather starts telling it was a brave fight. So many people died. And the child's question every time is, but what good came out of that? Our soldiers at the Wimmerich died. What good came out of that? Our soldiers in Normandy died. Our soldiers in Dunkirk died. Our soldiers in Kohima died. And what good came out of that? The governments changed. The present enemy was annihilated. But the same took a rebirth. Possibly the Hindu philosophy of reincarnation is there in the politicians. The faces change. The hunger, the greed remains the same. And then the sacrifice of the brave becomes a handle to exploit their nefarious ends using the name of these brave people. I bow my head in remembrance of these brave people. who were carrying out their job in an exemplary manner, much beyond the call of duty. If I have a grouse, it's not against the bravest people. I revere them. I respect them. I'm saying about the politicians and the leaders who caused these wars, their covetousness. The biblical injunction, covet not, is disregarded in its entirety. Shouldn't day of remembrance should also be a day of not only introspection, but a day of promise that the political leaders shall ensure there will be no wars. United Nations was established. And what happened? United Nations became an instrument of some leaders to wage wars. What happened in Korea? United Nations was fighting the war. It was later on in Congo and in Gaza that the concept of the peacekeeping came up. So the very organization which was supposed to protect the mankind became a warring faction. And what was it doing? Carried out the behest of the more powerful countries against comparatively less powerful countries. Justice was lacking. Let Remembrance Day be a day of recollection, reappraisal, rethinking. Let this day be a day of, as I said, balancing our ideas, our thoughts, our actions, and the consequences thereof. Let this day be a day of audit of the politicians and their activities. Let this day be a day of appraisal. So when I talk of introspection, it is something for the human beings themselves to do. But that's why I'm saying I'm going ahead. Let it be a day of introspection and let it be a day of audit. Let the accountability be there. And then we would see whether the sacrifice of those brave people has been really fruitful or did they die in vain just to satisfy the imperialist hunger of the political leaders of the day. Whether it was submissiveness of Chamberlain or it was aggressive opposition to Hitler by Churchill and Roosevelt and Stalin, whatever it was. Let's rethink that have those actions not been repeated? Was the action of US in removing Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein not reminiscent of Hitler's invading Czechoslovakia and Poland? Think about it. The clothes differ, the masks differ, but the devil remains the same. And our brave soldiers have sacrificed their lives for the devils in different shapes, in different forms. That's why I say this should be a day of commitment to help, not only respect but to help. Show compassion for the vets and show it in a proper way to ensure that not a single tear is there in their eyes, not a single pang of pain afflicts them. Let it be a day of compassion for the world as a whole. Let it be a day of introspection and audit for the leaders. If we celebrate Remembrance Day that day, that would be a real homage to our vets. Are you there, the politicians? Are you there, the decision makers? I dare you do it. Do it for the good of the mankind. Do it for the people who sacrifice their life and limbs so that your professions and your statements are believable, reliable, and you are authentic as those people were authentic. The people who died and laid on their lives were authentic. Are we? Are our leaders so? That is $1 million question. Thank you.